on the boat. So we want to make sure first off that our tow vehicle is in working order, and just a few things to remind guys to check out on the trucks. Make sure it starts, make sure your code 3 lights work, your siren, your horn, all the regular stuff. Make sure your radios turn on. Make sure that before you started it, make sure it was plugged in, and then when you're done checking out the vehicle, make sure it gets plugged back in, because when you start the vehicle, it does have an auto eject on your shore power. So coming around the back, after you check out the stuff in the cab, make sure that your surfboards are tied down and secure. Coming to the back, take a look in the back. Once you start going through your inventory, don't forget to inventory a few things that are in the back of the truck that should be there. While you're here, you can take a look at your trailer, see if it's attached correctly to the tow hitch. Make sure that your power cord is plugged in and tight, and make sure that everything is locked in, the chains are on correctly. Make sure everything is locked in. Make sure your winch is nice and tight and secured. Make sure your safety chain is connected. And as you're walking past this area here, just kind of take a quick look, make sure everything looks normal. To perform the daily checkout, grab your binder from underneath the captain's seat. And in the binder, you'll find our daily checkout. So just going down the list, I'll start from the top and go down. We're going to start with our fuel and oil check. There isn't a fuel gauge on the dashboard for our fuel, if you guys remember. So we're going to have to do a visual check. And just looking down in there, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but the fuel should be near the top of the neck. If it's low and you think it's a little too low, try filling it up with a 5-gallon gas can that we have over here. The easiest way we've found to fuel the boat back up, instead of trying to jackknife it over into the side where the fuel tank is, if you've tried doing it, it's pretty difficult. The easiest way we found is just filling one of the 5-gallon buckets that we have in the shop and just filling it by hand. Okay, next you want to check out your batteries. When you're checking out your batteries, a couple things you want to make sure that are working properly. One, the electrical cord is plugged into shore power in the corner. And every receptacle in the station and in the app floor has a GFI on it. So if you're not getting power to your charging system, if it's not lit up, but you're connected to your extension cord to your receptacle, go ahead and check that GFI. Sometimes the GFI will pop if the wire is plugged in with it being wet. So the charging system, when it's working properly, it'll be all lit up. The check mark will be green that says it's okay, and the charging system lit up green means it's fully charged. As it's charging, you'll see the difference, red being low battery, yellow being moderate, and green being fully charged. After you make sure that's all working properly, a good thing also to check is your batteries, to make sure there's no corrosive going on, there's no water in there, and your connections are all good. So the way you do that is we have some alligator straps on a nylon strap here. Separate your alligator strap and move the strap through, pull it apart. The case has a couple tabs to release on both sides, and then pull the case off, and then everything is exposed. To check for water, sometimes water can get in here if there's if it was used and there was water coming over the back of the boat. You can pick up the battery and just take a look in the bottom to make sure there's no standing water in there. Okay, next you want to check out your electronics, and that's everything including your lights, your radios. Trim up, trim down, rotate, reverse and forward, and radio check. So going through, we're gonna go ahead and turn everything on the side here, since the batteries are already on. Once everything's on, check your lights, make sure all your lights work. To turn on your navigation lights, it's one more switch on. It says nav, you're just gonna pull that up, and that should activate your navigation lights. When checking your fluid, you want to start with your transmission fluid, because when you're checking your transmission fluid, you want to make sure your piston's compressed all the way so that all the extra fluid is in the reservoir. This is the reservoir for your transmission fluid. When checking it, it should be no more than 1/2 inch from the top of your reservoir. Okay, so next we're going to check the engine oil. To do that, we need to turn batteries on. Turn the ignition switches on. And trim both your engines so that they're level. If we don't have the engines level when we're checking the oil, you're gonna get a bad reading. With the engines level, pull your dipsticks, which are located on the front. Like so. Before moving on to the next step and starting your engines, you want to make sure that our protective strap that goes around the clutch housing is put back on. Remember, we take this off when we clean everything. So before you start it, just to make sure it's not flapping around and gets caught and stuff, let's put it back on. The way we put it back on is you have to thread it through underneath the muffler, through around your steering stabilizer, and it just velcros back onto itself. Do the same thing for the other side. While you're here, you can make sure that everything looks normal and operates normal. Make sure that your lock is not twisted out of the way. If this is twisted out of the way, it can fall off. So make sure that this is not tight, but just screwed in so it's not going to fall out. Take a look at everything else. Make sure everything else looks normal, working condition. Okay, checking your engine operation. You want to turn on your ignition switches first. We already checked our trim down. Let's go ahead and check our trim up. Fully up. Back down 2 seconds. We're going to check our reverse on both. And forward. Pretty good. Okay, if you're having an issue with your props not rotating from forward to reverse, there's a couple of zert fittings that you can check to make sure that there's enough grease in there. As you know, every time we take the boat out and bring it in, we're going to grease all our zert fittings with a couple of pumps of grease from the grease gun. If your props aren't spinning from forward to reverse well, you can add some grease. There's a couple of zert fittings in particular you want to add for the rotation. There's 5 of them. There's 2 here, 2 here, and 1 inside here, if you can see it. One more thing while you're back here, you can check your rear straps, make sure they're tight and secured properly. Okay, so next, before I start it, I'll just talk about what I'm going to do. I'm going to start both engines. Once both engines are running, I'm going to let them idle for a little bit. I'm going to check the throttle response a little bit in idle, or I mean in out of gear, and then put it back into idle, and then check to make sure that both engines go into gear properly. Thing you want to check on your engines is making sure that your steering steers clear both ways, all the way left and right. When you're done doing your engine checks, let's put it back in trailering position. Both engines trim up all the way, and make sure that your engines are both headed straight. Okay, one more thing that we want you guys checking is to make sure that there's no water in the hole. There's a bolt back here that you can check to see if there's any water in the hole. Get that off. Open it, make sure there's no water draining out of there. If there is water draining out of there, drain it out and let the station captain know, let the oncoming crew the next day know, because there might be an issue if we're getting water in here. We've found that if there's a few cracks starting on this boat, if you're finding water in there, that's a problem, so let somebody know. But make sure to check this every day with your daily checkout. Okay, next you want to make sure that your GPS is operational. I'm going to go through your setup screen, hit accept. Open it up, just make sure it works properly. You may not get a signal here in the station, but just make sure that it turns on and it looks like it's working properly. After you figure out that that's working good, let's move on to the radio check. So we're making sure that all our radios, first off, are on the right channels. Our VHF is going to be stored on channel 16. Our Hayward radio is going to be on Hayward Dispatch 1. And our 800 is going to be kept on Command 13 for now. For your David Clark's, there's 4 settings, 1, 2, 3, and 4 for your radios. Setting number 1 is going to be your Hayward radio. Setting number 2 is your Coast Guard or your VHF radio. Setting number 3 is going to be our 800, and 4 is blank right now. So make sure your setting is on the radio that you want to do your radio check on. I advise doing a radio check on our Hayward channel. Put your headsets on. Make sure your push to talk works. Make sure your headsets are working. And just do a regular radio check. Our identifier, if you don't remember, is Rescue Boat 1. After you get your radio check done, we want to go through and make sure that our PA system works, our sirens work. If you forget where that is, it's right here on this unit. Horn, siren, and PA. And our mic for our PA. All right, one more thing I want you guys to check out is make sure that your antennas are being stowed away properly. Sometimes they'll drop down, just bouncing around on the road. But if your antenna, just a graphite antenna, if it's bouncing on this metal bar, it's not going to be good over time. Over time, it's going to wear out. You notice it's been trailered a little bit already with it bouncing on that bar, and if we keep stowing it like that, it's not going to last long. So when you're checking it out in the morning, we also want to make sure the antennas are stowed properly. So just loosen it up, raise it slightly, and lock it back down so that it's not bouncing on the bar. Okay, and then lastly, we're going to check the boat cleanliness and inventory. Inventory sheet is in the binder. When you're checking the boat cleanliness, you want to also make sure that the trailer is in good working order. Make sure all your tires are inflated properly. There's nothing out of the ordinary. Okay, so here's your boat inventory inside the binder. It's nice and laminated. And then your daily checkout again is here. If anything is out of the ordinary, write your badge, date it was missing, and what it is. And then also notify your station captain what's going on. So again, we're going to be checking this out every day. The rescue swimmer at Station 7 is going to be the one responsible for checking it out. If there isn't a station captain, if there isn't a rescue swimmer at the station, it's going to be up to the station captain to assign somebody to come out and check the boat. And when you're done, this log needs to be filled out every day.